Growing up, I thought culture was something you traveled to. But the truth is, culture was shaping me long before I entered a global room. Hi, I'm Sunaina, and today I'm sharing something I don't usually talk about: how working between languages, expectations, and worldviews quietly shaped the leader I eventually became. Not by design, but by accident. So here's my personal story. My real cultural education didn't happen in another country. It happened inside a French classroom in India. I was 24, teaching at Alliance Française. My bosses were French and my students, they were Indians. Homemakers, pilots, engineers, students, teenagers. Well, it was a mini India in one room. And suddenly, I wasn't just teaching vocabulary. I was translating logic, French logic, Indian logic. And a third layer, my own logic. And that's when I realized I wasn't really doing language classes. I was managing a global team without knowing it. And here's this one example that still makes me smile. Teaching directions in French was just so funny. Because in India, we never used maps back then. We just used people. Bhaiya, left le lo was our entire navigation system. Well, try explaining this to someone in France. It's going to become a whole cultural TED talk. Even grammar taught me something. The more I learned other languages, the more I understood the beauty of my own. Something colonial conditioning had never allowed me to see. And these tiny moments were my earliest lessons in cultural intelligence and global understanding long before I knew the term existed. And then as I moved into leadership roles, I saw the same patterns everywhere. For example, respect. In some cultures, respect means silence. In other cultures, respect means engagement. One sees interruption as rude and the other sees silence as disinterest. Another example is hierarchy. In India, Korea, China, some of the East Asian countries, hierarchy is visible. Age, title, experience, all of it matters. But talk to someone from the Netherlands and the hierarchy almost disappears. Everyone is equal and you call your CEO as well by their first name. Let's now look at communication. I grew up in an environment where indirect communication was prevalent. Don't question, be polite, be safe. Look, it worked beautifully in my cultural context, but it failed me in global rooms. It's because people didn't see this as humility, they saw this as uncertainty. And I had to learn directness the hard way, not as aggression, but as clarity. Let's also look at trust. Well, even trust is cultural. In relational cultures, for example, in the UAE, trust is built through warmth. In task-focused cultures, for example, in countries such as Germany, trust is built through competence. Look, it's not so serious as well. There are some fun parts to it as well. For example, accents, translations, idioms. They are like cultural X-rays. And when I taught French, literal translations were a comedy show. Idioms collapsing, expressions getting lost, and students saying things that sounded completely different from what they really meant. You know what? Even greetings changed rules. In India, for example, how you greet depends on your age, religion, comfort, and even time of day. But in some other cultures, you may greet strangers, colleagues, your neighbors, or everyone with the same tone. And these are not just linguistic quirks, they are the architecture of one's identity. But here's the leadership piece that changed me. You cannot build trust the same way in every room. If I use my Indian relational warmth in highly task-forced culture, it may feel very vague. If I use my direct Dutch-style clarity in deeply relational cultures, it may feel very cold. So what I learned was this: adapt your method, not the value. I don't become a different person, I just choose the version of myself that the context needs. And that's called global awareness and cultural intelligence. It is not about performing, it is about understanding. And you see, when leaders get this right, conflicts reduce, trust rises, and collaboration becomes real but not forced. So now if I look back, one cultural habit that shaped me the most is my indirect style of communication. Well, I felt that it made me thoughtful, but I was also afraid to speak up freely. It was the understanding of the why I communicated the way changed everything. Well, it is self-awareness, which is cultural awareness. So now I would like to hear from you. What's the one cultural habit that shaped who you are today? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to learn from your world as well. And if this resonates with you, hit subscribe. We're building a space where culture and global leadership finally gets to meet.